I'm going to stop my share now, and I would request Ramesh to share some of his thoughts that he wanted to share today. Over to you, Ramesh.
Thanks, Anand. Um, Hope everyone can see my screen. Let me just enlarge the view. So myself and Janani, we would be talking about a really interesting topic, which builds on what Anand spoke of all this while. So we'll be talking about lean agile mindset really quickly, and then we have another interesting activity lined up for you. Janani would be leading that. A quick introduction about myself. So I'm Rumesh Sujyatunga, a safe program consultant and a management 3.0 facilitator. So Anand is mine and Janani is Guru. And then I have been practicing Agile for more than 10 years, training and coaching organizations like large telco organizations, organizations into education and publishing, and then banks here in Sri Lanka. And then I'm also management 3.0 facilitator as well as business analysis and solutions design trainer and coach. I've trained more than 5,000 individuals, have done more than 100 trainings, have done speeches and webinars like this on Agile and business analysis. Scaled Agile is something that I have embraced and I've seen and followed for a long period of time, and now practicing so that we can enable change in organizations. So quickly moving on to today's the areas that I want to cover, I'll start off with a small story. So this actually happened to me. This happened to me while I was schooling. I used to walk to school, and it was about a 10-minute walk. Every day when I walked to school, there was a house where there was a dog, and there was a large gate, a wooden gate, which was blocking the two of us. I used to stop in front of this gate. There was a dog on the other side, and this dog used to look at me. The initial few days, we just exchanged views. We just looked at each other, and I quickly went away because I was getting late. A few days went by. The dog became inquisitive, and the dog started scratching the ground. The dog started to see whether he could actually come and reach me. Right? Again, a few days passed by, and the dog quickly he was able to build a larger hole. It came to a point where one day, as soon as the dog saw me, the dog was able to quickly creep under the gate and come out. But something happened. Both of us had been looking at each other over a wall or over a gate for a long period of time, that as soon as we met face to face, we don't know what to do. I was staring at the dog, and the dog was staring back at me. We didn't know whether to hug, we didn't know whether to embrace, we didn't know what to do. Right? So we were stand still, or we were looking at each other without doing anything. This is exactly like what is happening to organizations nowadays. Organizations are looking at adopting Agile, at maybe Scrum, maybe Kanban, and maybe in large organizations, the SAFe concepts. But the organizations are just blindly following it without having the proper mindset, or without having a proper idea as to why we are doing it. We are looking at building organizations which are immune to what is happening in the environment, which are immune to facing the challenges that are posed by the environment. How do we do this? Is it by blindly adopting agile practices? Is it blindly adopting the SAFe practices? There should be some sort of a guiding principle behind which would guide in terms of adaptation. Now let's just look at this particular question. So we see three tools. We see a hammer, we see a screwdriver, and we see a saw. So if I ask this question, which one of these tools do you feel is the best tool out of these? So if I had asked you all these questions, some would have picked it's a hammer. Some would have told it's a screwdriver. Your perception or your stance, the stance that you take when saying it's a hammer or when saying it's a screwdriver, would be based on your experience, would be based on your observation of the situation, would be based on the needs, specific needs that you are facing at the moment. So it's a perception, it's a mindset that we take towards looking at work. Now, another quick example, I'm sure you all have seen this image before. Do you see a duck or a rabbit? Some would say it's a duck, some would say it's a rabbit. Uh, Based on the direction from which we look at this image, we would take a specific stance. We would look at the world in a particular direction. That's exactly what a mindset is. In terms of agility and in terms of the work that we do, in terms of the problems that we try to solve through solutions, it's the way we look at work. It's the way we look at work. Now, a mindset over a period of time develops. A mindset is driven by the way people behave. A mindset is driven by values, beliefs, the underlying value, the assumptions and culture that is within individuals and in organizations. Uh, so much so that mindset over a period of time operates in the subconscious mind. Now, if you take your daily routine, uh, us waking up in the morning, getting ready to go to office, having our breakfast, and getting into a vehicle and driving to office, we have been doing this over a period of time, and it has happened so much that we would be doing this without even thinking about it. This sort of a mindset is actually good if we are actually doing routine type of work. So Anand, when in his speech, he mentioned about Frederick Taylor and then scientific management. So in the past, the type of work that was done was simple problems. The individuals were trying to solve simple problems which are existing in the real world. But these can be uh, routinized, or you can come up with a certain structure or a process that can be followed to do it over and over again. These would become repetitive. That sort of a mindset, that sort of work would involve a fixed mindset. If you have the certain knowledge, if you have the certain look and feel about the work that needs to be done, if you know how to do it, you can get it done. So in terms of scientific management, there were specialists that were being created. If someone is specializing in, like Anand said, hammering that iron, he or she would have been able to create the head of the nail. If someone was good in terms of shaping the nail, he would have been good in shaping the bottom part of the nail. But these are not the problems that we are solving at the moment in today's world. For this, we need to look at the world in a different mindset. We need to take a different perspective in terms of looking at solving today's problems. For this, we need to look at creating something called a growth mindset. Coming out of having a fixed mindset, a narrow mindset where we look at small problems and where we look at uh, uh, routine types of work, we need to come out of the box and think about challenging the norm, meeting challenges in a different way. If we are doing a certain activity in a certain manner, and if we are achieving the targets, how can we do it better? How can we relentlessly improve? How can we overcome the obstacles that are there? If we have a fixed mindset, if the process or the structure that we have at the moment in place, if this structure cannot solve the problem, it might be a case where we move out of it. But if we have a growth mindset, if we face obstacles, if we face situations, we would do whatever we need to do to come out of that situation. The amount of effort that we put, and then the way we look at criticism. If we get some negative feedback, we would see why that actually happened, and then see what we can do to come out of that situation. Uh, and we would try to grow as a whole rather than growing as one individual. If we have a growth mindset, we as an organization would look at how we can actually use our brains and talents to do something better as a whole, as a collective whole. Let me just highlight all these points using three simple areas. I'm sure all of you know these three people: J.K. Rowling, Jim Carrey, and then we have Oprah Winfrey. Uh, all of these people had one main ingredient in common. They had a never give up attitude. One of the key ingredients for a person to have a growth mindset, a never give up attitude. For example, if you take J.K. Rowling, um, she was undergoing a divorce in 1995. She had written certain novels, some 90 plus thousand words. She was being rejected left, right, and center. No publisher was accepting her articles. She never gave up. She never gave up until she met one of the publisher, and then the CEO's daughter fell in love with the article that Rowling had written, and look what has happened. Same with Jim Carrey, and then Oprah Winfrey. So if you take off Oprah Winfrey, she's a person who has been molested by her uncle and relatives at the age of 40. She could have easily given up, but look what has happened, and how she has come out of it. That's the type of mindset that is required in terms of having a growth mindset for an organization, for an enterprise. Second point that I wanted to highlight was changing the game and relentlessly improving and innovating. Look at the Sri Lankan team, Sri Lankan cricket team, something close to us, and then something close very especially to us in Sri Lanka. Before 1996, Sri Lanka, the Sri Lankan cricket team, the main objective of going for a World Cup was just to participate, just to fill up the numbers. If you take the 1987 World Cup, if you take the 1992 World Cup, we were one before the last. We were basically beating only Zimbabwe. And then in 1995, Sri Lanka went on a tour to Australia. The team underwent a lot of hardships. Arjun Arantunga, the captain, came back and said, "This is not going to work. We are going to meet Australia in the final, and we are going to beat them." That's the sort of vision that a leader should have. So the growth mindset involves a vision which is like a dream, which should propel the other team members in the organization to achieve those type of heights. Vision alone is not enough. So if you take the strategy that was followed by the team, Sri Lankan cricket team basically revolutionized the game, as we know. Pinch hitting, putting Kalitan and Jayasuriya right at the top, and then going after the bowling, hitting more than 100 runs within the first 10 overs. That basically changed the game. That basically changed the way the game of cricket was played. And then it helped the entire team to grow as a whole and finally lift the World Cup. One last example and one last point to highlight in terms of the growth mindset. What you see in the image is the sequoia tree. This is called the sequoia tree. This grows in the Nevada region in USA. These trees are alive for more than 1,000 years. They grow more than 200, 300 feet in height. And then look at the size of the trunk of this tree. These trees can withstand any hurricane, any monsoon, any fire, any type of natural or man-made disaster that can be there. While protecting themselves, while being able to withstand all these challenges, the sequoia tree is also housing a lot of animals, and it's protecting the smaller trees which are around it. There are deep-rooted, there are roots which go deep into the soil, and and these roots are interlinked or intertwined with each other. That's how they protect. Whenever a wind or a monsoon comes and hits, these trees won't budge, right? That's the type of mindset, again, type of area that is required in terms of a growth mindset. Grow as a whole rather than growing as individuals. Grow as one single cohesive whole. Try to improve as a whole. So with these thoughts in mind about the growth mindset, let's move on to an activity. I give Janani the floor.